with all respect, all due respect, to the co-pilots of the world, we're going to take a slightly different angle when we talk about this topic today, which is how go-to-market teams are getting real business value out of AI, real business value in a sustainable, repeatable way. So first, and you've heard this from a few other folks, Ian was up here and he showed a lot of slides and a lot of data about what's going on inside of B2B. At a super high level, it's pretty rough out there. Probably not news to all y'all. CAC is up, lifetime value is down, valuations are down. Not good. Some data, not as deep as Ian's, but corroborating the same thing. Over the last 5 years, CAC is up almost 70%. Company valuations are down 20% against the long-term mean, not against the 2022 highs. Why did this happen? Why is CAC increasing? Why is lifetime value decreasing? It's not anybody's fault. It's because go-to-market teams have so much to do, and often they become the most expensive part of the business and one of the least efficient parts of the business. So you have something to do, and then you roll out a new product line, or you expand into a new geography, or you have to do something else, and all of a sudden, you have all of these tasks, to-dos, processes to execute, so what do? You bring on another application. You bring on another person. You hire a bunch of new people in a new geography, like all these different things, and it adds up to what we have now. And a handful of other speakers today use this phrase, which I thought was pretty interesting, which is that we have this environment of go-to-market bloat, the accumulation of all the very well-intentioned investments that you make across the go-to-market engine that are yielding underwhelming, underperforming results. This manifests in a handful of ways. I mentioned a couple of them already, probably going to be pretty familiar to you. Application sprawl, tool bloat. You have a SaaS platform that crosses the T's on all of your contracts. You're like, what am I looking at? Somebody earlier today said that they're a CEO of a company and they hate looking at the 15 line items for all the SaaS they have. I was like, 15? That's like an order of magnitude off. Like other companies are looking at hundreds of apps. We have vendors that help us spend less on SaaS. SaaS vendors that help us spend less on SaaS. And you're like, what is going on here? Another way that bloat manifests, hyper-specialized full-time employees. You hire a person to do one specific thing, and then they're very narrowly cast, and that expertise is valuable. But how can we get more breadth in what people are responsible for? Manual processes that have to be executed painstakingly in a very siloed way that end up creating, all of these things end up creating disconnected data. It's not talking to each other. There's no real leverage there created from the data. This is a major problem. In fact, it's the biggest problem that go-to-market leaders are facing this year. We hear it over and over and over again, and I see a lot of people nodding. Hopefully you're not just being polite. Maybe you're nodding off because it's the end of the day. The promise of AI is to experience a pretty significant from-to. And again, with all respect to the co-pilots out there, you're probably not going to achieve true go-to-market velocity with the co-pilot experience because it is still a manual process. It does still require prompting skills. It's a new thing. It's another application. So how can you achieve real go-to-market velocity? You need to think a little bit differently about AI. This is what I see from a lot of companies. They bring on, again, well-intentioned, and they're thinking about their AI strategy, and they bring on a co-pilot for this. And one of their legacy vendors has one little solution for this. Or they look at another tool and it solves this one little thing. And they end up in this similar danger zone that many of us are in already with legacy SaaS, where a lot of the tools that you have solve hyper-bespoke, very small use cases in a siloed way that does not get infused across the rest of your organization. Don't allow that to happen. Generative AI is a totally different paradigm for how technology works, and it can break down silos in a way that is actually real, unlike some previous generations we've had. And so your go-to-market AI strategy needs to be in this part of the quadrant. We always want to be in the top right of the quadrant. It needs to be systematic, and it needs to be a strategic deployment of how you're using AI. And so I'm using the phrase go-to-market AI strategy very intentionally. This is not your content marketing AI strategy. This is not your SDR AI strategy. This is a go-to-market AI strategy that can and should be interconnected across all the various elements of your go-to-market team. Very, very important for you to think this way. Think in systems. That's how you're going to find leverage in the system. And in fact, largely this is the role of operations. Operations exists at a company in order to provide leverage. And now there's an ability to provide leverage in a totally different way. And that's what business value is. So I know there's a wide array of folks in here, ops, marketing leaders, sales leaders, et cetera. It is a full go-to-market team's responsibility to do this. And a lot of it is powered, as it always is, by the fine folks in operations that actually understand how the pipes work, how the plumbing works, and how to deliver information to the people where they are, where they need it. So the goal of AI and how to get real business value out of it is to do these three things. Codify your processes. I've said that a couple times. I'm going to keep beating this. You need to codify your processes. Who in your company is the best person at writing an SEO, a piece of SEO, search engine optimized content? Who is that person? Okay. Sit them down. Say, what is your process for doing that? I search the keyword. I look at the first 3 Google results. I look at the headers. I read the content. I understand that people also ask questions. I look at all the other things inside that article, and that's my basis to create an SEO content brief. And then I take that brief and I think about the audience all the way. All of these processes, there are hundreds of them. Open your sales playbook to any page. Open your marketing, finance, ops page to any page. And you'll see a process that can and should be codified inside of AI. Now, can every process be codified? Maybe not. But 9 out of 10, maybe more, definitely can be. So be thoughtful about these human processes that can be codified with AI. Does this remove the human from the loop? It does not. Human strategy, streamlined AI process, human in the loop at the end. It's kind of this AI sandwich with humans on both sides. Very, very important. But that middle part is what's causing bloat right now. And if you can get that down to be as streamlined as possible, I hesitate to use the word automated. I think of more as streamlined because it's not full automation here. Human, AI, human, it's not full automation. But it's streamlining processes to get that cost out of the business and to allow you to achieve that greater velocity. Velocity is speed and direction. So it's one thing to move fast, and you could fully automate, let's just say your SDR team right now, and say, oh, yeah, we're going to achieve huge speed, and we're going to send millions of emails, and then you're going to wreck your domain, you're going to burn through your TAM. You might see a bump in pipeline, but it's going to plummet. That's what full automation is. So streamline is a bit of a different word. Velocity is speed and direction. You want to run fast in the correct direction, that 4-minute mile that Ian was talking about. Integrating systems is really important. Generative AI has the capability of understanding data in a way that systems just have not been able to before. Structured data, pretty easy. Salesforce and Marketo can talk to each other. Cool. It's all relational databases. Unstructured data, no chance. Sales transcripts, PDFs, things that are on your website, all that is data that can be leveraged by generative AI, and you can integrate these systems together in ways you've never been able to before. And finally, that all serves to connect your teams in a way that they've been disconnected. And now you can connect them by being smart about your processes, being smart about your systems. This is an uncharitable view of how things break down right now from an operational standpoint. As I mentioned, when data is flowing from one system to another system, we're good. We got pipes for that. From HubSpot to Marketo or whatever. Those systems, cool. We got that. But things break down when humans start to get involved. We want to serve this data from one system to a human. Well, is it going to be really enough for them to execute? We need that human to put data into the system. Good luck getting your reps to enter anything in a CRM ever. And we need a human to provide a really good and standardized experience to another human. How does one of our sellers interact with a buyer? And how do we make sure that's consistent across all of our sellers? It isn't. But if you are smart about how you think about codifying your processes with AI, you can flip the script on this. You can remove the bloat that exists across a lot of these processes, and you can achieve some pretty impressive results. So now, with that preamble done, how are go-to-market teams actually getting business value out of AI? I'm going to do something a little unorthodox here, which I'm going to put information on the slide, and I'm not going to talk about what's on the slides. So if you're experiencing a little cognitive dissonance, you're not alone. It's somewhat intentional, but I think storytelling is probably a better way of approaching this. Again, beating just this over the head, codifying processes. This is how you flip the script. This is how you go from bloat to velocity. All right, so here we go. Cognitive dissonance engaged. We were working with a revenue operations team before their fiscal year started on February 1st. And for those of you in sales, RevOps, how many of you? Okay, a good amount. You're probably familiar with, you get a new territory, You have 200 new accounts. Great. Now what? And it's hard. Creating territories is very hard. But we were working with a RevOps team, and we had their head of RevOps and their head of SDR. And we said, head of SDR, talk us through your process for building an account plan. What do? I look at their website for this, and this information. I scan their open jobs to see what they're hiring for and why. I run this, and this Google search on the company to find CEO interviews and product launches, press releases, funding announcements, all of these things. I research the industry that they're in to know the macro trends inside that industry, on and on and on and on. 60 minutes of this person just reverse demoing us of their approach to building an account plan. We codify that process in AI. We have the generative AI kind of agents now doing the research on job openings, running those Google searches, pulling all of that data together, sourcing it so that you have all the right information where you need it. And then we work with the RevOps team to write all of that information back to wherever they wanted it. You want to create a Google Doc for an account plan? Cool. We'll create all your 2,000 Google Docs that you're going to go have. You want to write it back to your CRM? Awesome. Now all that information is going to be right back there in your CRM. And so day one of their fiscal year, all of the reps got 200 accounts, and all of those accounts had all of this rich information in there. Where are they placing bets for growth? What are their challenges going to be? How should we position our value prop based on what we know about this company? We took the process of the best performing SDR, who now leads the SDR team, of building that account plan and transmitted that across the rest of the company. So now the from to is two things. One, in the world before this process, the first few weeks charitably, maybe months uncharitably of your fiscal year is flushed down the toilet by reps just doing account research. Number two, instead of training the team, the sales team, on how to do research, manual, cumbersome, time-consuming, you train them on how to take that information and be strategic about it, be thoughtful about it. Okay, now I have all this silver platter information. How am I going to sell? How's that going to change my outreach? How's it going to change my discovery, my demos? All of these things that actually create real meaningful conversations, meaningful relationships with your buyers. That is a codification of process that actually moves the needle. You can see, I don't have any stats on this page. I have a couple other stats on these ones coming up. Same sort of deal here for outbound prospecting. Head of SDR, bring us your best rep. Who is your top performing rep last year? And how do they do their outbound prospecting? Who are the members that they try and engage of the buying group? Above the line personas, below the line personas. When they're researching a persona, when they're looking at somebody's LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook or whatever databases you're using for information, what are you looking for and why? How do you build that kind of mental map of what the org structure is and who's responsible for what and the metrics they care about, all of those things? How do you develop a real point of view on a contact? And then again, use AI to stitch together a series of prompts that create a workflow that codifies this process. And it's not just the contact research in this case. It's also, Mr. or Mrs. SDR, how do you take that account research? I know where this company is placing bets for growth. I know what their challenges are. And then take that contact research. I know what they're responsible for, what they care about. And how do you combine that into 50 words of an email? It's really hard. It's really hard, but AI can do it. Can give you a passable first draft. And so now, day one of the fiscal year, every single rep gets 200 new accounts that are fully fleshed out with account plans there. They get 5, and this was just what they wanted, 5 key contacts at every single one of those accounts fully researched with everything there with the first draft emails written to the contact record. Not sent, human in the loop on the back end. The rep can go spend 30 seconds editing instead of 30 minutes writing and get all that time back. So what does the sales rep do instead? Instead of spending all that time researching, writing, flushing time down the toilet, they're doing the video messaging, they're doing the high-touch stuff, they're doing the social selling, they're doing the things that actually move the needle, and they're doing it in the context of what matters to that company, as opposed to what matters to them. And that is the from-to that we're experiencing. Now, the other cool thing that happened, and again, we're thinking in systems here, and I know I only put up the account research and the outbound prospecting. But the other cool thing that happened is we sat down with our account-based marketing team. We said, how do you build your landing pages? You have your landing page template. You use Webflow. Cool. What are the sections? Header 1, hero text, body, all the things, carousel text, all the things. Like, show us how you structure your landing pages. And then we're going to take that account plan that we built. We're going to look at the messaging that we created based on the contact research. We're going to create custom landing pages for all of these people in a snap. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. Still, ABM strategy is there. So now what does the ABM team get to do? They get to do events like this. They're not clicking around in the back end of their CMS trying to figure out how to create custom pages. They're letting the technology care of that so they can focus on the human strategy and the human relationships. Pretty cool. Deal management is another one. Again, begging your reps to put information into the CRM. Good luck. Good luck. So now, day one of the fiscal year, all of the transcripts that we have had, sales transcripts, if you're using a call recording software, which mostly everybody is, if you're doing virtual sales, which mostly everybody is, you have this unbelievable data set at your disposal that is often totally underleveraged. So we took all of the calls that had happened within, they said 6-month window. If you want a 9-month, 12-month, 18-month, whatever window you want, we did it for 6 months. Looked at all the transcripts, the previous conversations that happened for all the accounts that they were going to assign in the new fiscal year, and teased out all the information that they wanted. If you're a medic shop for qualification, we can have all of that medic information stored on the account record. If you want the people that were involved in the deal that are no longer at that company so you can do a champion chaser type play, we can do all that. Take your sales playbook, take your marketing playbook, any page, and think about the process that it takes to go do this, and I almost guarantee you can codify that process inside of AI. This is a very different approach than the Copilot experience, which again is useful, and you should do, and it will help you learn how to manipulate the large language models. But the real value comes from your strategy for how to do this kind of stuff, the go-to-market motions that actually move the needle. So think, if you can think this way, and you can stitch these prompts together into workflows, and if you use Copy AI to do that, I'll be very happy, then you're going to realize the from to here. You're going to go from this situation where things probably feel pretty broken. I know at companies I've been in the past, things have felt pretty broken, to this universe where you've got greens across the board. The right information is making its way into the systems and then back to the people. The codification of best practices happens so you know that the way that buyer or seller 1 is operating is the same way that sellers 2, 3, 4, 5 down the line are operating. And that's the peace of mind that you, from a leadership perspective, need to know that you're always putting your best foot forward. That's what AI can do. That is the business value. It's not write me a blog post. That's small potatoes. It's the bigger systematic stuff that can really impact the entire team. And this is how you go from bloat to true velocity. It takes time, just like building any other process takes time, up front, to codify those processes, to find the people in your company that are the best people at this, and then to actually get them to tell you how they do it. What's their magic? It's hard to do. It takes time. It is worth the time. For I'm sure many people here have built a process before. And certainly I've been in a position where in the early days before the process was documented, I'd be like, I'll just do it myself. It's faster. Can't do that. Got to put in the time up front, get that process codified, see what you can, quote unquote, outsource to AI, and go do it. And that's the leverage that you're going to get. That is how you go from this red, CAC skyrocketing, valuation plummeting, to green. CAC is going down. Why? In the old world, it's been 5 months now since this company rolled out this new process and these rich accounts and the rich contacts and all the great outbounding. And I talked to the head of RevOps in preparation for this last week. And he said, we had the financial profile that we had, or the operating plan that we had, was 1 SDR supporting 2 AEs. Pretty normal. He's like, now we've got 1 SDR supporting 3 AEs across a global business. So a 50% increase in span of control for an SDR. So instead of needing 30 SDRs to support their global team, they only need 20. Doesn't mean they're firing people. It means that they don't need to hire people in the future. That is how you change this financial profile. That is how you control customer acquisition cost. The relationship that you build with customers because you understand what matters to them and you have meaningful conversations and relationships with them, that is how you increase lifetime value. That is the business value of AI. So I'm not sure if anybody has heard it communicated quite like this before, but it's a bit of a different way of thinking about things. It's much more systematic, it's much more strategic, and that's the challenge to all of you to really go home and think about is what are those systems that we can codify. The low-hanging fruit for most companies, if you need a place to start, typically is this outbound world, account research, contact research, sequence creation, or cadence creation. The second is content creation. So how are we going to improve our SEO? How are we going to create more customer stories? The third is campaign execution. So given a campaign brief, we need to create all of this landing page and waterfall content. The fourth is account-based marketing. As I mentioned, very easy to scale account-based marketing. And the fifth is this deal management, AI-driven forecasting type thing that's actually taking sales transcripts and making them useful. So those are the kind of the top 5 places to start. I know that was a bit opaque to me before I started at Copy AI, but I've just seen this now over and over and over again for hundreds of companies. Like those are the main starting points. So I know it can be hard. It can be a little bit daunting. It's a new way of thinking. It requires your time, leadership time to codify. Nobody else can do it. But if you do it, it's well worth it. Pays off pretty quickly. 60 days, within 60 days, 90 days. And then you start to see the flywheel. And you start to invent your own AI use cases. And you start to codify other processes that other companies that are bespoke to your company. Something you're not going to get out of a cookie cutter, legacy software because you need to customize it for your own process. That's the value. That's the value. So if you're interested in seeing how companies are doing this, more than happy to chat with you about it. It's somewhat self-serving for me to just come up here and say, Copy AI can solve all your problems. We can solve a lot of your problems. You can do this in other systems. You can build your own GPTs. You can do all of that if you want to. Or you can go the more purpose-built platform route, which is what we're trying to build. So even if you just want to have a philosophical conversation about how to think about this, let me know. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. So that's all I got for you.